Within those terrifying seconds, lives were destroyed. Two young children full of life and dreams were caught in the crossfire. Fletcher Merkel, just 8 years old. Harper Moisky, only 10. Both were gone before help could even arrive. The shooter, later identified as Robin Westman, a 23-year-old former student, blended in like any other young adult visiting the area. To the outside eye, nothing felt out of place. But behind that calm face was a storm that had been brewing for months. We'll dive into Robin's hidden world, the writings, the videos, the twisted manifesto that left even FBI agents disturbed. Because once you hear what was inside, you'll understand why investigators believe this wasn't just an attack. It was a message. Imagine this. Kids laughing in a schoolyard, parents outside chatting, the smell of fresh lunch drifting through the cafeteria. It's the most ordinary scene you can picture. But what if I told you in just a matter of minutes, this picture-perfect moment would shatter into chaos, leaving families broken, a community terrified, and investigators staring at questions so dark that even today they don't have all the answers. You clicked on this story because deep down, you know something about it doesn't make sense. And trust me, you're right. Because what happened inside a Catholic school in Minneapolis was not just another tragedy. It was something far more chilling. It was a normal Thursday morning. The Annunciation Catholic School, right in the heart of Minneapolis, was alive with routine. Students heading to class, teachers preparing lessons, parents dropping off their kids. No one suspected that among the ordinary crowd was someone carrying a secret that would soon turn into horror. The shooter, later identified as Robin Westman, a 23-year-old former student, blended in like any other young adult visiting the area. To the outside eye, nothing felt out of place. But behind that calm face was a storm that had been brewing for months. Witnesses later said they noticed Robin hanging back, pacing near the church connected to the school. But who really pays attention to one person on a busy morning? Minutes later, everything changed. The sound cut through the laughter of children, a noise no child should ever hear. That single sound triggered a wave of panic, teachers yelling, kids screaming, doors slamming. And within those terrifying seconds, lives were destroyed. Two young children, full of life and dreams, were caught in the crossfire. Fletcher Merkel, just 8 years old. Harper Moisky, only 10. Both were gone before help could even arrive. 17 others, students, staff, even parents, were injured, some critically. And the worst part, no one knew why. No note left, no clear motive. Just a community frozen in shock. At this point, you're probably asking, why? Why would a young adult, someone who once walked these same school halls, come back years later to unleash this level of terror? What could possibly drive a person to turn a place of faith and learning into a nightmare? That's the part no one could wrap their heads around. But as investigators started peeling back the layers of Robin's life, they discovered chilling details, things that explained not just the how, but maybe the why. And here's the thing. Most people thought it was about anger or revenge or some random burst of violence. But when the truth surfaced, it pointed to something far more disturbing. In the next this story, we'll dive into Robin's hidden world, the writings, the videos, the twisted manifesto that left even FBI agents disturbed. Because once you hear what was inside, you'll understand why investigators believe this wasn't just an attack. It was a message. If you enjoy learning about the hidden truths of crime stories, consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more content like this. And please comment below to let me know where you're listening from. You remember that feeling when you know something is wrong, but you can't quite put your finger on it. That's exactly what investigators felt the moment they started looking deeper into Robin Westman's life. On the surface, Robin looked like a normal young adult. But once they opened the door to her past, they realized they weren't just investigating a shooting. They were stepping into the mind of someone who had been planning, writing, and obsessing over darkness for years. And here's the part that will shock you. While most of us imagine killers act on sudden rage, Robin's story showed something else entirely. This wasn't an outburst. It was a script, carefully written and terrifyingly performed. Robin Westman had once been part of the very same Catholic community she attacked. She went to the school. She sat in those classrooms. She prayed in that church. So how does someone go from being a student of faith to becoming the reason two innocent children never made it home? When agents searched her apartment, they found journals, page after page filled with violent thoughts, disturbing fantasies, and even sketches. To anyone reading them, it was clear. This wasn't random. This was years of hate building up, finally breaking loose. Inside Robin's computer, investigators discovered something chilling, a digital manifesto. It wasn't just notes. It was detailed, step-by-step planning of what she wanted to do, who she wanted to target, and even the twisted reasoning behind it. Some entries revealed her obsession with causing fear, with making the world pay attention to her pain. Others were filled with hatred, directed at the school, at religion, and at the idea of innocence itself. And then there were the videos. Hidden in encrypted folders, Robin had recorded herself talking to the camera, her eyes cold, her words sharp. She spoke about wanting to make people watch children suffer. She described the act not as violence, but as a performance, something she believed the world needed to see. Can you imagine that? While parents were busy making breakfast for their kids, Robin was sitting in her room, looking into a camera, and spelling out a plan that would leave families broken forever. Now here's where things get even darker. Because when the FBI reviewed those writings and recordings, they didn't just see one attack. They saw the outline of someone who wanted to inspire others. This wasn't just about her anger. This was about sending a message. That's why the FBI officially labeled the case as more than just a school shooting. To them, it carried the marks of domestic terrorism. An attack meant not only to kill, but to spread fear, to fuel hatred, and to create chaos. And here's the haunting question investigators kept asking. If Robin had survived the shooting, what would she have done next? Because buried in her notes were plans that hinted this school might not have been her only target. Think about that for a second. What if this hadn't ended here? What if the nightmare was just the beginning of something bigger? Coming up next, we step inside the day of the attack itself. The timeline, the chaos, the moments when teachers turned into heroes, children begged to be hidden, and parents rushed toward the sound of gunfire, not knowing if their kids were alive or not. Because to truly understand the weight of this tragedy, you have to see what those few minutes inside the school really looked like. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. You're sitting in a classroom. The teacher is writing on the board. Your friend is whispering a joke beside you. And then suddenly, bang. A sound so loud it rattles the windows. A sound no one in that building will ever forget. That's how fast it happened. 1 second normal, the next second, panic, screams, chaos. And here's the chilling truth. What unfolded inside Annunciation Catholic School lasted only minutes, but for the people trapped inside, it felt like a lifetime. It was late morning when Robin Westman stepped into the church area connected to the school. In her hands, an assault-style weapon she had carefully prepared. The first shots rang out near the entrance. Witnesses later said the echoes were so sharp they thought it was construction at first. But when people saw children running, crying, and teachers yelling for everyone to get down, reality struck like lightning. 2 children, Fletcher Merkel 8 and Harper Moisky 10, were hit almost immediately. Their friends saw it happen. Imagine the trauma of being that young, watching your classmates fall and not understanding why. Teachers acted fast. Some shoved desks against doors. Others told their students to crawl into closets, under tables, even inside storage cabinets. One little girl later told reporters she was hiding in a music room cabinet, shaking, whispering to her friend, "Don't breathe too loud." In the chaos, some kids called their parents from under desks, whispering on the phone, "Mom, there's someone shooting, please come." Can you imagine being that parent, getting that call and knowing you're helpless? Meanwhile, in the hallways, the sound of footsteps and gunfire echoed. Staff members tried to guide students outside doors, waving their hands, begging them to run. One cafeteria worker, without thinking twice, pulled 3 kids behind the kitchen counter and shielded them with her own body. Everywhere, fear mixed with confusion. Nobody knew how many shooters there were. Nobody knew where Robin was moving next. Word spread fast. Parents started rushing toward the school. Imagine dozens of cars screeching to a halt, mothers and fathers sprinting across lawns, desperate to break through police tape. One father later said, "I didn't care if there were bullets flying. My kid was in there. I was going in no matter what." Officers had to physically hold some parents back, because running into the building could mean more lives lost. That's the level of chaos unfolding outside. In those terrifying minutes, heroes were made. A teacher used her own body as a shield while ushering students toward an exit. Another staff member stayed behind to lock the doors to a hallway, trapping herself inside with the shooter just feet away, buying time for others to escape. Stories like these remind us that even in the darkest moments, courage shines brighter than fear. Police responded within minutes, storming the building, their shouts echoing over the gunfire. Robin, realizing she was surrounded, turned the weapon on herself. It was over, but the silence that followed wasn't relief, it was horror. 2 children gone, 17 injured, dozens traumatized forever. And yet, even after the smoke cleared, one massive question hung heavy in the air. Why? Why this school? Why these children? Everyone wanted answers, but the answers wouldn't come easy. Because once investigators dug deeper into Robin's connections, they uncovered something even more disturbing. This attack might have been rehearsed. Up next, we move into the aftermath, the investigations, the FBI's shocking discoveries, and the painful truth about how close Robin came to carrying out more attacks. Because as horrifying as this day was, it might not have been the end of her plan. When the sirens stopped, when the gunfire was over, people thought the nightmare had ended. But in truth, it was just beginning. Because what investigators discovered in the hours and days that followed would change the way this tragedy was remembered. And here's the part nobody expected. The attack at Annunciation Catholic School wasn't just about those minutes of horror. It was about something far bigger. Outside the school, parents held their children like they never wanted to let go. Candlelight vigils formed within hours. Strangers lined up to donate blood for the injured. News stations camped outside the church, broadcasting the grief of a city that couldn't believe what had just happened. And then came the names. Fletcher Merkel, 8 years old. Harper Moisky, 10 years old. Hearing those names on the evening news made the tragedy painfully real. 2 bright futures gone. Behind the scenes, the FBI worked nonstop. They dug through Robin Westman's apartment, her online accounts, her phone. And what they found painted a disturbing picture. This wasn't an impulsive act. It was a calculated mission. Her manifesto revealed anger not just toward the school, but toward society itself. She had written about wanting to tear down innocence, about proving that even places of faith and safety could bleed. Some of her writings even suggested future targets, other schools, other churches. One agent later admitted, "It felt like we were reading the playbook of someone who didn't just want to kill, she wanted to terrorize." That's why the FBI officially called it not just a shooting, but an act of domestic terrorism. Think about that. A 23-year-old, once a student of the same school, was now being described in the same terms used for organized terror groups. And maybe the scariest part, if Robin hadn't acted that day, if something hadn't triggered her plan, she might have struck somewhere else, where the toll could have been far greater. But here's the thing about tragedy. It doesn't only break people. Sometimes it unites them. The Minneapolis community came together in a way that stunned the country. Neighbors who never spoke before hugged each other at vigils. Parents pushed for tighter school security and better mental health resources. Church bells rang for Fletcher and Harper, their names etched not just in stone but in memory. And this brings us to the most important point of all. People kept asking, what could have stopped this? How do we make sure it never happens again? Most answers were about more guards, more locks, more drills. But the real answer, the one experts kept repeating, was simpler and harder at the same time. The danger isn't only the weapon in someone's hands. It's the silence we ignore before the weapon ever appears. The journals, the writings, the cries for help that nobody takes seriously. That's the real lesson here. Tragedies like this don't begin the day of the shooting. They begin months, even years earlier, when the warning signs go unnoticed. So as we remember the lives of Fletcher and Harper and honor the courage of the teachers, staff, and first responders, one truth remains. The most dangerous threat isn't always the one in front of us. It's the one we fail to see until it's too late. And that's why this story will never be forgotten.